I'm going to be joined by my co-host, the one and only ravishing Rudy Campos Jr. Hey, Rudy, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? I'm glad to be back finally on Two Shots Podcast.
Right, good to have you back, like always, brother. And we're also going to be joined by our very special guest, the one and only Ty Jager. Ty, how's it going?
Of course, I couldn't come back unless I had a new setup behind me for some random reason. Because I did have some cables connected in my desk. I was too lazy. I said, you know what? I could connect those pretty easily, but why not just make it a whole big ordeal and set up a new set in my living room? Just because I love myself that much.
There you go. It reminded me of old times, like we were saying, sets falling down in the back, something peeking out from the green screen. I'm glad
Dude, the
we don't have
green
to put up with that no more.
dude, the green screen that barely fit in my room at that time. So because the green screen only came in this like one large like size, and it went from my wall to my bed, and I was essentially entrapped where my desk was.
Yeah, I remember that thing was like awfully close to you. You were
Now,
caged.
now if I have a full whole living room, I can put the green screen if I really want to do it.
There you go. So you know what? Let's go ahead and dive in and let's talk about the news that was breaking. And let's talk about the overreaction as well. So earlier today, the San Antonio Spurs made an announcement. And the announcement was nothing short of we already knew this was gonna happen. It was that they are sending one Josh Primo over to the G League, to the Spurs affiliate, Austin Spurs. It shouldn't become as a shock to anybody. Everybody knew this was going to happen, and it just so happened that today was the day that they made the announcement. So let's go ahead and start with you since you're the guest here, Ty. What were your thoughts on this?
Not a surprise. This should not be a surprise to anyone. Josh Primo is the youngest player the Spurs have had in a very long time. I'm assuming he's has to be one of the youngest players the Spurs have ever had. But people for some reason are shocked. I'm not shocked. I knew it was coming. And it was obvious from like day one. Since they drafted him, we all knew he was going to Austin. So people that were saying, and it's funny enough, the same people who are saying, "Oh, he's just going to spend so much time in Austin," are the same ones yelling, "Why are we not giving Primo minutes?" You knew what was going to happen since draft night. What are you surprised about? I don't understand it, but it's no shock. And the biggest reason that they're going to send Primo to Austin is to get him a primary ball handler reps. He's not going to get that in San Antonio. Yeah, you can go ahead, give him Brent's 8.5 minutes a game.
3 minutes yesterday.
Three? Yeah, give him Brent Forbes 3 minutes yesterday, and tell me how that's going to be more useful to him as a developmental role compared to 30 plus minutes in Austin as a primary ball handler and as the number one option. So that's what the primary reason with Austin's going to be. It's mainly going to be because so they can give Primo those primary ball handler reps, because that's what Brian Wright is envisioning him as a primary ball handler in this league, not as the role man that they had him in at Alabama, but as a primary go-to guy for your offense. And the only way that Primo is going to get real reps in that role is going to be in Austin.
I agree 100. He has to go to the Austin Spurs to get that playing time to develop his skill set. I mean, he has a lot of upside. That's the thing that I think Spurs fans are most excited about. The kid is very poised for being an 18 going to what, he 19-year-old now. Amazing confidence out there. Doesn't look shook, has the it quality, whatever that might be. And you just love the name. It fits so well with the Hispanic culture here. Primo, which means cousin in Spanish. Great spin for on the name too for HEB. I'm sure they're going to have him in a Primo Picks commercial for sure. How can you not? But
Yeah.
there's a lot of fanfare behind Josh Primo. And this first Spurs fans need something to get excited about, and I understand why they want to go ahead and see him play sooner rather than later. But Rudy, what were your thoughts on this announcement that the San Antonio Spurs made about assigning Josh Primo to the Austin Spurs?
Honestly, it's kind of a shocker to me. I'm one of those fans that said, what the hell, no, I'm just playing guys. No, definitely something that we knew was going to happen. What shocked me was that it actually took 3 games into the season to happen. I figured he would have been assigned to Austin from the very beginning, not even on the active main roster. So going to Austin's not going to be really bad for Primo. It's going to be really good for him. He's going to be able to develop down there, like Ty was saying, get the primary ball handler reps in there. And also, they got to remember too. I mean, I don't see Primo being down there the entire season. I feel like he's going to be coming up. Maybe the latest I could see happening, maybe after the trade deadline come and goes. Second half of the season, we'll probably see Primo come back up for a little bit. But of course, injuries happen. So if we've got some injuries, we've already saw Doug McDermott go down. He's going to be out tomorrow night. If other injuries happen, you may see Primo being called up again to the main roster. But right now with Primo, his development is key. I mean, yeah, he's probably the youngest Spur ever to be drafted. So you've got to remember this is just a kid still. We used to say the same thing about Lucas Simonik when he was drafted. He's just a kid. You got to give him some reps. He's got to get those minutes in there. The best place for him to do it is in Austin. But not only that, if we don't see the small emergence of Bates Diop, then that's something there that I think Primo would probably get those little bit of minutes that Bates Diop is getting. But at the same time, it's all about the veteran right now with Pop. I mean, he doesn't really use rookies per se. So I mean, they all end up going to Austin. So again, nothing very, very shocking to anybody here. I think it's a good move by the Spurs. And we may see him quicker than we expect. It just depends on injuries right now.
Why do you have to bring up Lucas Simonik? You're throwing salt into the wound. Why do you got to bring up shit, Rudy?
Don't make me go get my Lucas Shamanich jersey because I do have one.
I know you
will
do.
pull it out.
I actually own one too. So.
Let's go!
Yeah,
Look at
do
Lucas
have one.
Shamanich jersey crew. Let's go. I'm highly on this.
Hopefully, maybe I'm smelling a road trip coming up here soon. Maybe we can all go and check out Primo over, playing with the Austin Spurs. Maybe when you come to town, Ty, go meet up with Mac or something and go make the trek over.
Man, because if they go play the Texas Legends in Frisco, which is like maybe 30, 40 minutes away from me, I certainly need to get some sort of. I need to get tickets, get credential, get something. I need to go. I need to go see Primo play. Hey, last time I saw a game in Frisco, Drew went off for like 20 plus points and like multiple rebounds with no fouls. So
you know what I was thinking about that. You made a really cool hashtag, the Luka train, right? We need something cool for
that died.
I know it died, but I'm just saying it was cool in theory, little train and all that. We need to make something cool for Drew. He needs to have a really cool hashtag or something. Maybe that'll be in the works.
Well, my creative juices are not flying at the moment, but I'll think of one throughout this. I'll by the end of this podcast, I'm going to have one. I promise.
There you go. You heard it here first. But
Take
like
the Eubanks.
Don't maybe get my Drew Eubanks jersey either. I got that too.
well, you got to keep that under, the protection. You don't want to wear it and ruin it. You got to get it signed, by the way.
I know I need to do that, but it's like both those jerseys are those like $60, $70 Fanatic jerseys.
Hey, they're still good, right?
Was Jock Landale assigned to Austin too?
No.
He was not.
Okay, so that was the uproar that I heard too. People were
DNP.
like, "Why is Primo going down, but Jock Landale's not?" I'm like,
he was a DNP last night.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really know offhand, but I think because of the lack of the big men that we've got, that makes more sense to keep him on the active roster. But
and Jock is how old is Jock?
He's not that old. Maybe 20.
He's 26.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not expecting Jock to really spend. Maybe he spends some minutes in the G League, but I'm not expecting like full stints from him. And mainly because you still got guys like Renfro down there. You got Wieskamp. You got some really good talent still down in Austin. That's going to be just fine. And also, until Zach Collins comes back from injury, from his rehab, I think you got to keep Jock out there just in case, because if God forbid Jakob or Drew goes down with an injury mid game, you got to have Jock out there as your second guy. So no, because say that Drew gets hurt, you gotta have a second big out there, and Jock Landale's a perfect second big to put in a hurry if you need it.
Yeah. I don't understand, the DNPs, like a lot of Spurs fans, we just want to see the players play. But in, the grand scheme of things, it's up to the coaches. And like we stated, they're going to want to keep him on the active roster in case there is an injury, because it's an 82 game season. anything can happen. So I get that aspect of it. The one thing
And
that I have a big question on though, Ty, what's up with Thaddeus Young, man? Like,
it's it's really weird because that just does not fit with, like, if you're going to run him out there, you have to run him out as a five. You cannot pair him next to you can't pair him next to Jakob. You can't pair him next to Drew. It's just not fit. Like, Thaddeus is not a good four, especially between two guys that are already. I know Drew has that 3-point shot, but it's just not respectable yet. You cannot pair Thaddeus Young between those two. It's just not. The spacing takes a hit. It does not fare well, and so you got to play Thaddeus at the five if you're going to play him, and that's what he's been playing in the few minutes that he has played. And unfortunately, it's not sure. It's not that he's bad. I just don't think he's understanding the role yet. He doesn't understand the team system fully. He's a veteran, so he's still going to get some run with Pop. But overall, it's just like he just hasn't looked that great whenever he does play. He's the same. He's the same as Bryn, where he just looks lost. He's making poor decisions, and it just hasn't, like, any minute that Thaddeus Young has had with in his San Antonio jersey on the court, I've not been impressed.
and that's the thing though, is that he hasn't had a lot of minutes. He didn't play a heck of a lot of minutes in preseason. He played sparingly. I think I saw the most minutes that he played was maybe 10 minutes that he played in preseason. And then I saw him play, I believe, in the silver and black scrimmage. And that was pretty much it. Haven't really seen a lot about him. We hear a lot of things going on behind the scenes that, so, per Hoops Hype, and I saw the tweet that you had put out that his name is being brought up in a lot of trade scenarios, trade talks among some of the NBA executives, behind the scenes, but nothing has happened. This has the feel of one Damari Carroll situation, and I don't
So,
want
all
that
right,
to
hold
happen.
on. I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. DeMar
I
Carroll
hope
just
not.
showed that he the thing with DeMar Carroll was that the Spurs weren't trying to trade him at first thing. They were trying to play him, and he just did not look good. He was old, he was outdated, and he was already not a great player. And his last season with Brooklyn before coming to San Antonio was not that great. Thaddeus Young, though, is coming off an excellent season for his age. He can still be productive. He just looks lost in terms of the offense, and contenders are going to want Thaddeus Young. Unlike Damari Carroll, where it's just like, bro, you can't play. You cannot be a productive member on the court, and that even showed whenever he finally went to Houston. He was still not that great. But with Thaddeus Young, contenders are going to want him no matter what, because he is still an impact player. He's still a very smart player when it comes to playing the game of basketball. And at some point, I think the Spurs are going to trade him no matter what. He's going to be traded by a deadline. And what it's going to be for, we're not sure.
Yeah.
I think it's certainly going to be some draft capital is going to be in there. Is it going to be for another player? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on who the market is and which team. Like, for instance, Boston can pick up Thaddeus without having his another player if they wanted to because of their trade exceptions. But
Yeah.
it's going to be all willing based on what are other teams willing to give up, especially when they start getting desperate mid-season because of injuries, because of underperformance. And the San Antonio is certainly going to take the best available trade possible. And I think no matter what happens, he's not going to get bought out. He's going to get traded.
I hope so. I hope you're right. And Rudy, if we go ahead and let's say the Spurs go ahead and do trade one Thaddeus Young and they get, I don't know, maybe some second round picks later on in the draft, is that necessarily a bad thing, Rudy?
No, it's not. I mean, you've got a lot of trade value when it comes to that young. That's 100% fact right there. What I'm looking at is I wonder, if the Spurs are looking at what's actually going on in two cities right now. That would be Phoenix and also Sacramento. I mean, you've got two big men there that are looking possibly to get moved, and one DeAndre Ayton, the other one Marvin Bagley. I mean, you've got two guys there that could definitely add some really really good depth of the Spurs, but you can also give. They're also looking for that veteran type player as well. So Thad Young could help a very young Sacramento team up on coming. Not only that, you've got a Phoenix Suns team that was in the finals last year that is potentially looking again for that veteran type of leadership right there. Dad Young is a great locker room guy. So if you're looking at both teams, it's possible both teams could use that second locker room guy in there, especially in Phoenix because you got Chris Paul. If you're looking like Ty said, if you're looking on the East Coast, Boston's definitely one team that's going to be looking for that young type player. But the one guy that always comes to mind every single time, and I'm really starting to hate it, which because I'm glad it just died down, was the whole Ben Simmons thing.
Oh
Nobody
God.
knows what's going on with Ben Simmons at all.
And when it comes to a Ben Simmons trade, if you're a Spurs fan still thinking for that, it's not going to happen. It's just
Yeah,
not.
I don't think it is. I
With
really don't think it is.
with the way that with the demands that Morey wants and knowing more, he's not going to give in to that. He's not going to give in to just taking the bare minimum. And Thaddeus Young is not going to be a player that they want. They want an all-star caliber type player. And hell, they declined a trade that had like DeJounte and Lonnie in it. So what else are we looking at? So I don't see any trade happening with the Ben Simmons stuff. I think in terms of looking at Phoenix, I think Phoenix is certainly a destination. They have Jalen Smith, who they've been kind of putting out on trade, seeing put on the open market, seeing
Yeah.
what they can get. So he's certainly a guy that you could possibly get back. I think Portland is going to be a team that possibly might look at getting Thaddeus Young because that team has now looked good early on, and they're going to get in desperation mode to keep Damian Lillard somehow. And why not get a defensive-minded makeshift center out there in Thaddeus Young? Sacramento, I certainly agree with, and I think hell the Lakers might be one because if they start getting injury bug early between Davis and LeBron, why not add another wash 33-year-old?
Yeah, they already got Melo in there.
I don't think that is wash, but it fits within the scheme of putting the guy in his 30s on that Laker team.
Let me ask you a question, Ty. I know you're going to say no, but what if the Lakers offered Carmelo for Thaddeus Young?
You know what? I'm kind of split. I need hold on. Let me look at Melo's contract. I think it's like a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it's a 1-year deal. He didn't look very good yesterday, but who's to say that he might not be able to produce
he
here
can be
there?
a 3-point shooter. I can.
That's
give
what
Melo
I'm saying. Didn't get a lot of playing time yesterday.
Although, so I think the only issue with the idea is that they have literally no money to work with. They're already at $163 million on their roster. So I don't think a $14 million Thaddeus Young is going to make up for is going to fit with a minimum. I'm just looking at this. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. Make that 10. 10 players on the Laker roster. That's a minimum contract.
Oh God.
One team that's kind of that I've had my eye on when it comes to Thad Young, and it's not being mentioned at all. You got to look at Charlotte. Charlotte is a possible destination because this team is making some really big noise in the Eastern Conference. They've got a young squad. I mean, obviously you've got LaMelo Ball there, Miles Bridges. You've got the rookies and Kai Jones. You also got PJ Washington there. They need someone besides Gordon Hayward to be a locker room guy. Who better than Thad Young to be that locker room guy who is definitely one of the best players in the league when it comes to being that veteran leadership you need. So I would say Charlotte is kind of like a dark horse team to maybe get a Thad Young. They've got a ton of money to play with right now. I think they're only at 117 million as far.
112 million.
Got 12. So yeah, I mean they've got tons of money to play with, and they also have I mean if you're looking at the Spurs, if you want a young guy to get back in return, you got a Vernon Carey that's still there. He's a big man that you can probably develop. I mean you can get something from Charlotte there that definitely both teams would be interested in. I know Charlotte probably has some draft capital as well. So
yeah,
for me, the draft horse is Charlotte.
You know what? I really like this idea with Charlotte. There's some names on there that I'm not sure who they would give up. Like, you're not going to get PJ Washington or Miles Bridges out. The Miles Bridges is having a breakout season, and PJ Washington just has a huge dynamic with arguably their best player in LaMelo Ball. So I'm not sure that you can get those two, but there's some other players that you can get out of it. Maybe you get Kelly Oubre Jr. randomly just because the money matches, and his next year's deal is non-guaranteed, so you can easily lose that money if you really wanted to, or you can just trade him again somewhere else. But I actually do like that idea because they have money to work with, they got draft capital to work with, and it looks like it would easily work out.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and move on from this Thaddeus Young talk, and let's talk about the Spurs Lakers game. I went to this game, and I arrived early. And one of the things that I did notice that was clearly evident is the sheer number of Lakers fans that were in attendance. And they were there in full force. I mean, they were waiting out, probably an hour before the gates even opened. They opened the gates to everybody at 6:30, but if you have special access, VIP access, or courtside experience access, you can get in there at 6 o'clock, but you have to have the credentials to get in. Well, I arrived early, got in there. Me and my son, we got our seat. We sat down. We were watching the pregame shoot around. And I got to tell you, man, Thaddeus was impressing me, Ty. I even sent you the video. The guy was putting in work. He shot. I mean, he was just busting threes, going from the left side, left corner, of the arc, all the way around the horn. He had on the bungee cord between his knees, working on his footwork, just shooting from all over the place. I mean, you just got to admire the ethic, the work ethic that he has. You
He
know,
he can he can have a good work ethic, but that doesn't mean much whenever you play 3 minutes and you're at
true
-7
that.
with two fouls.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I was just admiring the work ethic. The guy puts in a lot of work, so I like that. But just noticing, what the fan base that was there was clearly one sided, and that was in favor of the Lakers. This felt more like if I was at an away game than a home game. And I got to tell both of you guys right now, not just Ty, but you too, Rudy. Spurs fans were on social media complaining, saw the videos, saw the pictures, saw the cute memes, everything else that everybody was putting on the TL, the Twitter line. Spurs fans have no one else to blame but themselves. You want to call someone out, call yourselves out. Season ticket holders are selling their tickets to Lakers fans, foregoing the Lakers game, staying at home. I'm going to go ahead and flip this for profit because it's a Lakers game. Spurs fans didn't even go. You didn't see a lot of silver and black there. Saw a sea of purple and gold, as far as the eye could see. But I started thinking about it when I saw the t-shirt contest. That's when I said, things that make you go, how many of these fair weather fans are actually Spurs fans wearing Lakers jerseys? Because they were standing
It's
up trying to get the free t-shirt. And I'm like,
Well, that's also a free shirt. I'm gonna go to a Mavs game and look for a free T-shirt.
but I'm just saying, man. It started making me think, looking at the fans. I'm like, how many of these guys are going to be wearing Spurs jerseys the next game? Oh, I'm a Spurs
It-
fan.
no, and those same people that were wearing Laker jerseys were wearing Warriors jerseys a few years ago. So
Yes.
and maybe they even have some Brooklyn Nets jersey. You never know.
Yeah, they're following the hype. They're just there for show. And the funny thing that I saw, the funniest thing to me, two things actually. One is as I get into my car and I'm waiting for traffic to thin out a little bit because it's just ridiculous.
It
I
is.
see a guy coming, with his girl dressed up in Lakers gear. The guy goes in the back seat of his car. He has a charger, right? Pulls out his Lakers flags, rolls down the windows, and puts the
Oh, so
Lakers flags on there. I'm like, where was that before the game started? You know?
so he was too afraid to put the Laker flags on before and keep them on, but had to wait for. Oh my god.
Yes, I was just laughing. I'm sitting in the car, guys, and I'm just cracking up. The other thing that happened that was funny, not funny kind of thing is I'm getting out. I'm over there in the fan zone, right? So as you exit, you go down the stairwell to get out faster because everybody's just crammed in the hallways, like cattle. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I just walk down the stairs, go out through the Bud Light courtyard, going towards the front of the AT&T Center. All of a sudden, as I get closer to the parking lot, a Lakers fan driving a big old pickup truck, which probably is a Spurs fan, let's be honest. They set off a firework, like one of those night shells in the middle of traffic, dude. Wait to get out in the street. It startles everyone because you hear a big old boom and then pow, and everybody's like, what the fuck is going on? It's a fucking firework, dude. I'm like, they acting like they won the damn championship. Like, let's get real here. You won a game. And honestly, one of the things that I did kind of tell you guys about that was interesting to me is that the amount of field goal attempts, that it took to beat this Spurs team. And what I'm getting at is when you're looking at their stars, the Spurs they don't have an NBA superstar on this team. They have a lot of role players, a lot of young players. The Lakers, on the other hand, they have, you know, they have, let's start off with Anthony Davis. Then on top of that, they have Russell Westbrook. Then you go ahead and add LeBron James to the mix. And then, of course, they have Carmelo Anthony, who's at the far end of his career, you know? But they took 105 field goal attempts as a team, the Lakers did. Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, between both of them, they took 58 field goal attempts. That means that they took almost more than half of the team's field goal attempts, which means that the Lakers had to rely heavily on their stars to beat a Spurs squad that is young, doesn't have any stars on their team yet, and they needed to go to overtime to beat them. So that says that this young Spurs squad is very competitive. Even though they lost the game, there's still something to be taken from this. That it took you had to rely heavily on your two stars to beat this Spurs squad. We'll start with you, Rudy. Rudy, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first off with the fans, man, I get the frustration. I totally do. But we're even going back to Kobe and Shaq days. I mean, the arena was always filled with majority of Laker fans, and that's been frustrating ever since back in the day. Because I used to go to a few of those games, and I would see a ton of Lakers fans. And this is way before Ty's time too, because back when we were going to Hemisphere and we had Magic coming in and all Byron Scott and them. Again, we saw a ton of Laker fans. So to me, it's really nothing new that we're seeing a bunch of Laker fans invading San Antonio Spurs home games. But I do get it, man. I mean, it's for season ticket holders. This is the gold mine because $100 ticket can easily be sold for $300, $400. So you get a big chunk of your season ticket money back, basically. So I get why you see it. But as far as the Lakers team, I've been talking to Derek Gervin a lot, and I keep telling him I'm not impressed. This Lakers team is not impressive to me. It's an old bunch of guys, and Anthony Davis is not old, but he's injury prone. I mean,
We saw him go
you've got
down in
an
the
injury
Lakers game
prone.
last night.
Yeah,
Dude,
you've got an injury prone guy. You've got LeBron James, who when he gets scratched, he's out 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, he has to be
You've
dramatic,
got
Rudy.
Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook. I mean, yeah, the guy can put up a triple double, but it's not hard when you're shooting 22 of 75 from the field in one night to get double digit scoring or whatever. Yeah, the guy's a good player, but this whole team as a whole, it sucks. So if any of the Laker fans last night at the Spurs game are listening to this show, you heard it from me first. I will even say it this week on the show on 9:30 a.m. when I have the Sweep the League show. This team sucks. It really
it's not a
does.
good team.
It's a
not.
terrible team. If they don't make a move by trade deadline, this is going to be your seventh or eighth seed in the West, probably. And I don't see them coming out of the West. This is a very, very bad Lakers team. Terrible.
It's funny because I tweeted there was some capture I got a pop of him smiling. And I tweet and this was after like the Lakers were 0-3 to start the season. I tweeted out, it's like this is me watching the Lakers in despair. I love it. And then last night, apparently some Laker fans saw it. They bookmark it and they tweet, "Oh, it's the Lakers are 2-0 after this was tweeted." It's like, yeah, you beat a Memphis team barely, and then you barely beat a San Antonio team. Like, why are you happy? This is I said this once they did the Westbrook trade, that this was going to be such a weird fit just between LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook, and I've been proven right. And then also, that's before they had the free agency of all the oldest guys in the league between Rajon Rondo, DeAndre Jordan, Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Avery Bradley, Wayne Ellington. I think he's not that old. But then you have like some really weird guys and like Kent Bazemore, Malik Monk. Also, he has a crazy stat I'm going to mention. And then you get rookie Austin Reeves, who was a 5-year college player. It is such a weird roster. Westbrook is such an odd fit, and really he was not that good throughout the game. Yeah, he scored 33, but man, he looked rough. He did not look great. He was making some bonehead decisions, and like he did get some clutch moments, but that was about it. Anthony Davis comes back from 100% of all the injuries that he sustains in game as if he never was injured, like last night. But then again, there's like it's just a really weird roster. Spacing is odd. You're relying on Austin Reeves to make your most threes besides Malik Monk, who was for some reason a plus 31. I don't know how. If you go throughout the roster just from last night's game, these are the plus minuses: +6, +3, +4, +1, -15, -13, -9, +12, and then suddenly Malik Monk out here is plus 31. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I
But
mean, all it is in Laker Town is a nursing home. I mean, let's be real, man. It's just a nursing home.
I mean,
it
being
is.
And
honest though,
Frank
but don't
Vogel,
they have the one of the oldest rosters in the
They do.
NBA?
they
They do.
do. I don't. I mean, this really shows the. This really shows how valuable guys like Kyle Kuzma and Alex Caruso are for, or were for this Lakers team. I mean, you went out and you basically just said, "All right, Frank Vogel, you're going to be Nurse Ratchet for this team. You're just going to take care of these loony guys and these old nursing home guys. I mean, we're just going to hope this works. It's not going to work. This is not going to work. I mean,
I'll,
they've got to do something if they want to compete in the West."
I'll give you some numbers. They are 29th out of 30 teams in opponents' points per game. They are 16th in offensive rating, 20th in defensive rating, and 21st in net rating. The Spurs have a better net rating than the Lakers do. Just take that in mind. The Spurs have a better offense than the Lakers do. This is like people are very high on this Lakers team because of what they did last season, but they ignore the different roster changes. They ignore that they got rid of some of their key guys in Kuzma, in Harold, in Caruso, because they didn't sign Caruso because they didn't want to give him money. Like it's this team is poorly constructed, but they're going to be overrated just because LeBron's on it and that they won a championship they won a Mickey Mouse ring 2 years ago. So 2 seasons ago. So this is such an overrated team, and they're gonna by the deadline, they're gonna nuke it, just like LeBron did like in his last season in Cleveland, where he had Dwayne Wade and they traded off like half the team.
And you're looking, like you said, the defensive rating. They're rated 20th out of 30 teams early on in the season. You look at the Spurs and see, okay, where are they at as far as their defensive rating? They're 15th out of 30 teams in the NBA. They're kind of middle of the pack right now, which isn't bad for a young Spurs team. They've upped their game when it comes to defense, and we kind of saw that last night against the Lakers. The only thing that I did see out of this young Spurs squad is boneheaded moves and not good decisions with the ball and crunch time. And it happens, with the young team. They got to get used to being in the spotlight and these clutch situations. And actually losing a game like this will actually make them better in the long run. And you always have to look for the silver lining. This is going to be a year of development and growth. They need to go through these growing pains in order to get better. And like Coach Pop said, he's just going to let them run. He's going to let them go out there and run and play and, see what they can do out there. They got to figure things out on their own. He can't always just let me call a timeout and come to their aid. They got to figure things out in the complexion of the game as it unfolds in front of them.
And that's honestly, this team has looked really good still. Like
Yeah.
they are outperforming expectations. And like they didn't close it out in crunch time, but they still kept up in crunch time. They kept up and forced the game to go to OT. They got a defensive stop.
And they tied the game in overtime as well.
Yeah, and Pop even said that DeJounte, like, he was not mad at DeJounte's shot to possibly send it as a game winner, because Pop said he had a good shot, he just missed. Yeah. And it's like you said, there was not great decisions, but that's also just comes with the young, unexperienced aspect of this team. And I'm not mad about it because this team is outperforming expectations. And unfortunately, you are going to go through growing pains, and these kind of games are going to be kind of those growing pain games. But this Spurs team has shown so much more progress that they are far ahead of what most people thought, including myself.
Didn't Russell Westbrook have something kind to say about this young squad?
Russell Westbrook said that this was a good team. I'll have to find the quote, but like so far, every coach and team that's been asked about the Spurs have been giving them compliments. And I'm not sure that's just being respectful, but it's like they're saying that like they're doing good things within the game. And
I think Russell's
again,
exact quote was something to the effect of, this is a young Spurs squad that's very good, very well coached, and Russell said that he sees them being good for a very long time, coming up. So that's a great compliment, coming from the likes of one Russell Westbrook, and saying how hard the team played, how competitive they were out there. Um, he was impressed by this young squad. So that's saying something, even though they did not pull out the win, they didn't get the dub. It happens, and
and and really, it's just an experience in it. At
yeah,
the end of it,
it is an
and
experience.
and at some point they're going to grow out of that inexperience, and they're going to be able to close out games. This is like again, they stayed competitive in the past 3 games against three. Wouldn't consider the Lakers title contenders at this moment, but they're still considered a good team
Yeah.
in that aspect somehow.
I want to ask
But
Rudy something real quick.
to keep
Rudy,
it close, that's great.
Rudy,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
ask you a question because I saw this, and as well as many Spurs fans saw this as well in the Lakers game. Jakob Portal, man, I love me some Jakob Portal. I like the Portal Jam, you know. But at the end of crunch time, Rudy, in the fourth quarter, free throws, my friend, and it wasn't just Jakob. We can't just blame Jakob. This is totally his fault because it's not. But I'm just going to ask you a quick question. Right now, since Jakob is not a very good free throw shooter, we've seen this happen with Giannis as well. He wasn't a very good free throw shooter, and they left him in the games. And look what happened. He winded up taking the Bucks all the way, and they won the chip because he had a out of body experience and just hit everything that needed to be done. He was just knocking down his shots in order to
Mhm.
will his team to victory. Jakob Portal, on the other hand, we've seen that he's had free throw shooting issues going since he first got here, going back last season. Again, this season, that's rearing its ugly head. If you're going to keep on playing Jakob Portal in crunch time situations, is he going to become a liability out there in crunch time in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, if he can't knock down his free throws? What do you think, Rudy?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it, Joe. He's a liability out there, but when you're one of the best players on the team right now, I mean, you've got to be out there, man. I mean, he can on the defensive side of the ball, he can make a lot of he can basically just show his defensive presence on that side
He's
of the ball. You need
arguably our
him out
best
there.
big that we have on this roster.
Exactly. So I mean, I understand the free throw situation. I totally get that. But on a roster like this and a season where, let's be real, expectations are not exactly super high, this is a moment for Jakob to just stay in the game and learn from experience. Get those minutes in at the end. You got to get in there. You got to knock down free throws. So be it. If you miss him, you miss him. I think Coach Pop is actually doing the right thing, just keeping him in there, knowing like, hey, the only way for you to get through get through this wall and break through it is to get the minutes of the experience at that time. Eventually, you know what? They may fall, like you said with Giannis. I mean, we're not comparing Jakob to Giannis, but eventually once you get those reps in, you're at the line, you get a little more comfortable. Let's not say anything else. I mean, Shaq was a terrible free throw shooter and he was there at crunch time a lot of times. Let's not beat around the bush either. Tim Duncan wasn't a great free throw shooter, especially towards the end. He was there at the end as well. So I mean, you've got big men who were not great free throw shooters who were still there at the end. But when you've got Jakob, who's one of your best players right now in the season, he's got to be on the court as much as possible. And to be honest, I mean, can we really say that he's been the best player on the Spurs roster right now for this season?
He's been the most consistent, at least in terms of performance, because yeah,
Yeah.
you've seen some guys like perform out, but they're not like scoring consistently, I would say, between like Devin and Keldon, but it's also more of a role. But he's been the best player and he's been so much better. He's not getting called for fouls easily. And like as poor as a free throw shooter he is, he proved last season that he can get himself out of that slump, out of a bad free throw shooting slump, and improve himself. So I'm not that worried. And eventually teams will start hacking him, but he's going to make them pay. Like he made a few teams pay last season because they started hacking
Mhm.
him and he started making free throws, and then they had to go away from that strategy and they didn't really succeed after that. So Jakob, I think he's going to be like a 50-50 free throw shooter. I think he's not great, but for some reason he's an amazing pop shot player. He can hit those pop shots like no one's business, and if he can just jump at the free throw line and do a pop shot, he's going to be 100% free throw shooter.
One of the things that I wanted
year,
to come back and ask you real quick, Ty, why does Jakob set lazy screens? This thing, it irritates the heck out of me, especially in the fourth quarter in crunch time. He was just setting some lazy screens. I'm like, Jakob, I've seen you set some hard screens. Like he puts people on their ass. He sets a screen so hard. But in crunch time, I'm like, Jakob, man, what are we doing?
In this game, it was mostly because the Lakers couldn't guard the pick and roll for shit, and Jakob knew that. So he said, "Yeah, I'm not even going to try to bother setting the screen because I'm going to be free underneath the basket anyway." So it's like he was running early in those pick and rolls just to get into position, but it's like also you probably set the weak screens because if he moves too much, he's going to get called for that moving screen. We saw that a few times last year. We've seen it a few times this year. So I'm not too worried about that. He's still one of the best screen assist guys in the league, and if he needs to set up his teammate to give him enough space off a screen, he's going to do it still. So I'm not that worried about it.
Yeah, Rudy, coming back to you with talking with Juan Jakob Portal. He has been one of our most consistent players that we have on the team. But one of the guys that I want to talk with both of you guys about is Lonnie Walker, man. The way that Lonnie Walker played last night, play like that every fucking game, Lonnie. I want to see that passion out there on the court. I liked Lonnie giving the Lakers the business after he hit three pointers in a row. I want to see that out of Lonnie. I know that he's capable of playing like this. I want to see him do this every single game. Can you imagine if Lonnie was to do this every single game? I mean, it would be amazing because it's infectious. His energy showing some type of emotion out there. It gets the team fired up. That's what I loved about Lonnie Walker last night is that he got fired up. It would kind of, translate it to the rest of the team. He was playing some inspiring basketball along with one Devin Vassell. Man, this kid has impressed me, man. I thought that he might have a good year. And wow, I mean, Devin Vassell, man, can't say enough good things about this kid. Rudy, go ahead and share your thoughts about not just Lonnie Walker, but also Devin Vassell.
Man, I'm glad I'm not on camera because I don't want people to recognize me right now after I say this.
Oh
But
Lord,
no, and it's
like
no
this.
disrespect to Lonnie. Lonnie's playing really, really good this year. But what is the one thing nobody has mentioned when it comes to Lonnie Walker? He's playing for a contract. So, I mean, he's balling out. Now, let me name a few guys that played for a contract. Jonathan Simmons played for a contract. Gary Neal played for a contract. These guys were like, oh man, oh man, oh man. But when that contract came up, they were balling. Spurs fans fell in love. So they got that contract. They got that money, whether it was here or somewhere else. They got the money. I am not saying anything negative about Lonnie. He's balling right now. I want to see him do it the entire year. I want to see him get that contract. And if he gets that contract, continue it. Don't fall off the face of the earth. Don't go Jerry Jackson on us and just, good night, goodbye. No, we want to see consistent Lonnie. But I want people to understand too, it's a contract year for Lonnie. People, and whether no matter the sport, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, rugby, who cares? If you're in a contract year, you're pulling 150, 200% on the court every single night because you want that money. You want to secure the bag. And Lonnie's playing at that pace right now, at that level. So he wants to secure it. But I just want to see it happen the entire year. He's playing great. He's playing awesome. Keep it that way. Secure the bag. Continue to play that way. But again, I want to make sure that this is something that continues on the entire year and it's not just a 4-game, hype train that we're seeing online.
Yeah, and your thoughts on Devin Vassell? Kids impressed you so far?
Oh yeah. I mean, very, very impressive by Devin. I mean, we knew coming in when he was drafted, he's a good two-way player. He just needed to get, he was kind of raw. He still needed to develop a little bit. But definitely a player that I can see getting, starter minutes eventually. Just not, not at this point right now. I love him coming off the bench. His energy coming off the bench is really, really good. But I do see him possibly maybe getting starter minutes if we see an injury happen on the starting five. I can definitely see him taking some a starter role there. But yeah, I'm very impressed with Devin. I really love his game. It's like I said, it's two-way game. It's kind of a Lonnie Devin thing right now. Who's going to get the minutes between the both of them? I think majority of them right now. Both guys are playing good, but I'm very very impressed with Devin.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and throw something at you here, Ty. Both Lonnie Walker had a positive impact on the team. His plus minus for the night was plus 11. Devin Vassell for the night, plus 10. They both had a positive impact on the team. What impressed you more last night, Ty? The play of one Lonnie Walker or the play of one Devin Vassell?
Man, you're asking me to pick between my two favorite children. How dare you?
You got to pick one.
And you notice I said two of my favorite children. No, but these two have been the first two off the bench so far this season, and both have been impressed. Like Lonnie's only had like one stinker of a game, and that was against Denver in the 4 games. I know it's 4 games, but he's been showing some really good stuff. Yeah, it's a contract year, so he's going to outperform. But this is also the first time that we've really seen him kind of be let off the leash. That he's not been tied to a leash. He's not getting benched if he's making mistakes. But overall, having that 21-point flurry of points, especially in that second and third quarter when it was desperately needed, Spurs are not in that game without Lonnie. And he's the sixth man come off the bench, and he's been excellent at that role. His shooting has been improved. And whenever he does get energized, like you said, having a shit talking Lonnie, that's gonna be fun, and that's gonna be something that I think is gonna really, like you said, drive this team. Devin Vassell, I'm not sure where he got his energy. I think Drew Eubanks donated some of his energy to him because that kid's all over the damn court. He is contesting everything. He's chasing down contests. He's just running everywhere. And that energy is like, there's a reason that Eubanks has really got himself into a spot in the league. That's why Devin is like so good, just from being a guy that can really be tight on defense in terms of putting some lockdown defense, being very disruptive. Then also being one of the most reliable shooters with this team, especially in transition. He's going to be very important to this team when it comes to shooting. Both him and Lonnie, like the bench unit is going to be as good as it is because of those two specifically.
I want to
And
talk to you about
and
somebody
their
else.
length.
Someone else who has actually impressed me yesterday because I saw them, up close and personal, just being at the game, was KBD. Kata beats Diop, man. He does a lot of the intangibles, a lot of these little things out there on the court. He had a positive impact on the game. He was at plus 16. He only had 6 points, but he was doing a lot of things out there on the court. 3 of 7 from the field, good enough for 42.9%. I mean, he had 2 steals, he had 7 rebounds. So he was getting it done out there on the court. Like I said, doing all the little intangibles.
There's some mixed things with KBD in me. He does it. He's like a perfect guy for his role, like coming off the bench as a backup forward. Like I can't deny that he can do that stuff and he knows his role. Problem is, bro, why are you taking up the ball? Why are you taking up the ball in overtime? You should not be doing that with a minute left. What are you doing? And he turns it over. Like I tweeted, like, KBD, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? You can't do that. You should not be the one be taking up the ball and going half court. Come on, man. But like
So does the emergence of Devin Vassell, and this is kind of an off the ball question for you guys.
all right.
The emergence of Devin Vassell, does that make Lonnie expendable?
No,
It's
no.
KBD, not KBD. Devin plays a different role. Like you said that like if someone's there's gonna be a starter out, like Doug McDermott's gonna be out for the next 3 games with knee inflammation. My go-to pick is Devin Vassell taking that starter minutes just because he fits that role in terms of he's a similar size to Doug McDermott and like 6'7", something like that. He's damn tall and he's lengthy. And he also plays a very similar role as Doug McDermott as being a shooting slashing type guy with just better defense. Now, not as reliable shooting as Doug McDermott and not as much experience, but the defense really kind of makes up for what he doesn't have compared to Doug McDermott in terms of experience and stuff. But like Devin is my number one pick of being a starter come Thursday night against Dallas whenever Doug McDermott's not going to be playing. And I say no to, does that make Lonnie expendable? Because Lonnie plays such a different type of game, plays a different kind of position. Like Lonnie, he's going to be the Manu of this team in terms of just being that guy, the spark plug off the bench. I'm not going to say he's Manu, but he's going to be that he's playing that role that Manu
That
played in terms of being
energy.
that spark plug.
Well, the reason
So
why I ask is because, again, we stated it before, he didn't get the contract extension in the offseason. And he still can get it. But with no contract extension, if he's playing out of his mind, that does make him more valuable. And one thing to remember is you don't extend him because a team that might possibly want him would use it to fit under the cap for the meantime. So, I mean, you're kind of going into the rabbit hole right there, but it could be another reason why they didn't extend him, just because, the team, if a team is interested, kind of keeping a contender under the cap until the end of the season is a possibility with a guy like Lonnie Walker.
And I still don't think it's like whenever you watch, if you go to a game and you see like the shoot arounds, Lonnie is like very close with the other guys. Him and Derek were like the two closest guys on that during the shoot around whenever I saw them. Now, if anyone's going to be making Lonnie extendable, I think it's going to be Josh Primo in terms of seeing how he develops, how quickly he develops. I think that's going to be the guy that really makes Lonnie expendable. But right now, I don't think nothing's really going to change. Lonnie is going to be that spark plug off the bench. If someone goes down, he's going to be immediately the next starter in terms of between like the 1 and 3. So God forbid DeJounte, Derek, or Keldon are out for a game or so, Lonnie's going to be taking their spot in the starting lineup. So it's not – I don't think Lonnie's that expendable. I think he's going to be a mainstay, and he's not going to get traded. Now, if any of these young guys are going to get traded, it's going to be in the offseason once the season's over. But I don't see any of those guys getting traded at the deadline.
We have to give somebody an honorable mention here, somebody that we have not mentioned so far in this live stream, and that would be your personal favorite, Drew Eubanks. He had the highest plus minus on the team for the night. He was a plus 17 for the night, Ty. Good for your boy Drew,
And it's he didn't get as many minutes last night. He only got about 12 minutes, but it was also, I think, is more of a matchup that Pirtle was having a great game. Pirtle played 37 damn minutes.
He did.
Because he was a main matchup for AD. So Drew was only out there whenever AD wasn't out there, and Eubanks has done solid stuff whenever he's out there. He's playing his role. He took his first 3 attempts, he missed, but oh well. He's 2-3, still 66% season shooter, 67%. Got to round up that 6, but he's doing his role still, and I can't complain. His hustle and effort's still out there, and he is part of the reason that bench unit can be really solid because, again, he's another guy that knows his role like KBD and plays within the bounds of Devin and Lonnie. And especially add him and Lonnie in terms of a pick and roll and having Lonnie dish out 6 assists. Drew is a perfect guy to have as a big that can finish at the rim for Lonnie from his passes. So Drew is always going to be kind of like a solid player. And I honestly don't know. There's been hate on Drew that's been completely unfounded in my opinion. I know I probably have a bias in terms of that we've interviewed him multiple times, but there's unfounded hate towards Drew Eubanks. Like, how can you give Drew Eubanks the same hate that you give Bryn Forbes? You can't do that.
Okay, man. Well, I think, Rudy, you're going to have to go ahead and depart at this juncture. Is that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, my boss is calling me, and I think he pays my bills, so I think I'm gonna have to answer
man,
that.
you next time you gotta stand up for yourself and tell boss you pay my bills, but you got to hold on.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him that now. Look, you SOB, I was on a show here, so
I run
you gotta
this
understand that's first.
I run this shit. Go ahead, Rudy. I know you got to bounce, man, but thank you for joining us for the discussion.
As always, I love being on the show with you guys. Hopefully, we can be on soon again.
All right, man. We'll see you later, brother.
See you later, man.
Yeah, but I was going to tell you, Ty, one of the interesting facts that I saw, one interesting stat that I saw from last night's game, only 2 players were 100% from the free throw line. One of those players being Drew Eubanks, the other being Lonnie Walker. Drew was a perfect 1 for 1. Lonnie was 2 for 2. So you have that,
Yeah. So one of the players I do want to talk about, because we kind of skirted around like the 2 top performers this game, and DeJounte and Jakob. DeJounte, I know he's having some shooting. He has had some shooting issues early on, but man, he's been doing so much other stuff on that court. It's been extremely impressive. Like he's been averaging a career high in assists. Before this game, he was averaging like 8 assisted game.
He had
I know it's only
15.
3. It was only 3 games, but he had 15 assists, and I did the hard work and kept track of this. Overall, so he had 15 assists last night. 10 of them specifically came in the second half alone. He generated 36 points off of his assists. 36 points were generated from his assist alone, for a total of 57 total points came at the contribution of DeJounte Murray last night. That's like nearly half the team's points.
That's pretty damn good. And not only that, but he did have a triple double. That he did not want to talk about afterwards because, I mean, he just felt like he didn't do enough to help his team, and he did a heck of a lot to help this team, keep up there with the Lakers. Go ahead and tie the game at the end of regulation, then go into overtime, and then tie the game again. In the overtime period. DeJounte Murray had a great game. He was out there for a total of 40 minutes, 10 seconds. He was 9 of 24 from the field, good enough for 37.5%. From beyond the arc, he was 2 for 4, good enough for 50%.
And
you know,
and to me, so I know people are saying DeJounte needs to shoot more threes. If he can shoot like 2 for 4 on a nightly basis,
it's not bad.
I'm gonna be satisfied.
Yeah.
I would be satisfied with that. If he's like attempting like 3 or 4 a game and at least draining half of them, fuck it. I will happily take that because I'm not expecting him to be a lights out shooter. I'm not expecting him to shoot like Devin or Lonnie and make 5, or Doug and make 5 3-pointers each between Devin and Lonnie. But if he can make his jump shot, if he can make his 3-point shot respectable in that sense where defenses are going to at least kind of guard him on the perimeter, that's going to be a huge thing. And it's going to leave a lot more space open, not just for him in terms of drives. It's going to leave a lot more space for his teammates to cut to the basket, especially in slashers like Keldon, like Devin, like Derek, and even Jakob. It's going to be generating a lot more opportunities for players if defenses saying, "Oh shit, we really have to respect this guy's. We got to defend this guy on the perimeter for once." He's not like Russell Westbrook, where you can just kind of leave him open and he's going to brick any jump shot he puts up. Lonnie Walker is going to have to make defenses respect his jump shot, and so far, I'm going to be okay with it, especially if he's shooting 2 for 4 like that. That's respectable to me.
One of the other players too that I saw out there, and it's just you got to love his energy, is Keldon Johnson. He was a -20 on the night. The plus minus doesn't really tell you all you need to know about a particular player out on the court, but he had 11 points for the game. He did have 4 personal fouls, 2 turnovers. He also had 1 assist, 6 rebounds. And from going to the free throw line.
Yeah, one of the few guys that got to the free throw line.
Yeah, he went 8 times. He made 7 of his free throws, 7 out of 8, good enough for 87.5%. That's pretty darn good. Seeing that he's one of these players that likes to attack the rim. That's what he does.
It's desperately needed too because the Spurs are 30th in free throw attempt rate. Like they're dead last in the league, and I think we can both agree the fouling was, or the lack of calls. The lack of calls that game was abysmal, especially in the early half.
I like to say it like this, Ty. I don't normally blame the refs, and I don't really complain about the refs, but being there at yesterday's game was horrible calling.
Both, like, because you said in person and us watching on TV, it was not. It's more clear than day. And to have a call like Russell Westbrook do a very dangerous move, and for that just to be negated by Jakob Poeltl, an offensive foul by Jakob Poeltl, it's still a dangerous move. Yeah, you can still call the offensive foul on Jakob. I'm not going to object to that, but that doesn't negate the fact that Russell Westbrook did a very dangerous move.
That should have been a flagrant because you cannot go ahead and grab a player when they're already in midair. That's very dangerous.
It's like what they do in the NFL. You cannot hit a defenseless receiver, and that's very much the same thing. He is pulling up a defenseless player who's in the air and pulling him down. And I don't blame Jakob for the offensive foul because what the fuck else are you expecting him to do? Not help his teammate, not get pulled down to the ground like an idiot, like Russell Westbrook did. Like what but we saw that there was a lot of no calls. And unfortunately the NBA gives a lot of credit. What is it? Respectability. It's not respectability. It's just notoriety calls. That's what it is. they give calls based off names. That's why Anthony Davis was kept getting fouled and all that. And although he only went to the line like 6 times, he only went to the line 3 times. If he went to the line for 6 attempts, but like Keldon's not going to get calls. Like he should have been at the line way more. And
Yeah.
this is not him like jumping into contact. This is him like running into contact by drivings and just like going for baskets. He's not jumping into them like they rule that Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, and like James Harden have done that are not getting to the free throw line because of it anymore. But he's driving and drawing contact that way. And for him not to get calls whenever he's getting slapped around like that, it's abysmal.
It is, but at the end of the day, I still loved and appreciated the aggression by one Keldon Johnson.
Yeah,
Even though they wasn't, Spurs weren't getting the majority of the calls, he was still being aggressive. Somebody has to do it. I love the style of his game. He brings a lot of dog to this fight, so you got to respect what Keldon Johnson is able to do out there on the court. Overall, it was a very exciting game in person and watching it on the television. Especially you were watching it. You were kind of doing a watch along with Noah, and I believe you had
yeah.
Nick in
So
there.
we originally we were going to do a live stream. Like I was going to set up here in my living room, but I was like, work held me back. I didn't get home until like 10 minutes until the game was started. It was
Oh,
about to start, so I was like, we just scrapped the idea. Just had fun, watch the game. But like, so we're gonna do something very special soon. Once we're gonna do a live stream from the couch and have you guys join us in terms of just us drinking and watching the game and reacting that way.
that's fun.
But I'm just gonna name. There's a handful of stats that are really impressive for this Spurs team because, again, they've played really well outside their expectations, and the number and some stats are really showing. They are currently third in the league in field goal percentage, with being second in field goals made and field goals attempted. They are fifth in 2 point percentage, which that shouldn't be a non surprise, I would say, because this is a team that was like one of the best mid-range shooting teams last season, where they are second. They are first actually in the league in 2 pointers made and 2 pointers attempted. They're slowly improving on the 3 point shooting. They're 21st in the league in 3 point percentage. So they're slowly improving. They were like worse in prior games. They're seventh in offensive rebounding, and this has been a thing that I've noticed. Jakob Pertl, he had 14 rebounds last night, and they were split down the middle, 7 and 7 in offensive and defensive rebounding. That's really impressive. And Jakob's been a really good offensive rebounder this season. And he's taking full advantage. Unlike last season, the Spurs were running a lot early in transition because their transition defense, especially with DeMar out there, was not that good. This season, they're running and they are happy to stay close to the basket and get the offensive boards. They're happy to get their own misses. And there's a reason that they're in the top 10 in offensive boards, and they are doing an exceptional job, especially between Keldon and Jakob specifically. They are first in the league in assists, and I think that should come as no surprise to Spurs fans who have been watching. The ball movement has been beautiful on this team, and just that's the reason they are generating a top 15 offense, because they are moving the ball and they are assisting a lot of their shots. I think Doug McDermott's like almost 100% of his points have come off assists, so it's been really impressive. And then the last pair of stats: fifth in steals and ninth in turnover percentage. So they are stealing the ball, and they are like, I want to say that their opponent turnover percentage is like in the top 10 as well. So they're really forcing their opponents to turn over the ball, and they're still being disciplined with the ball. Again, ninth in turnover percentage, meaning that's like they're within the top 10 of they're not turning over the ball. So overall, this Spurs team has been looking solid, and I think everyone enjoys watching them. And if everyone would just shut up about Primo, they actually might have even more fun.
They would have fun. I mean, that's the thing. And that's I guess, the mantra, the battle cry of this season. Just enjoy the team. Just enjoy watching them grow, watching the growth of the younger core, and again, it might not translate into a shit ton of wins, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If your young core is going to grow and develop and get better, that's what you want, because eventually that will pay off and they will start getting those wins. They're going to go ahead and start gelling together as a team, getting used to everybody's idiosyncrasies out there, and just being able to do that eye look, the eye contact like Manu, Timmy and Tony did so well back in the day. You already knew what was going to happen with one player just by giving them the eye, and looking at him in the eye, and they already knew, oh, he's going to cut here. I'm going to go ahead and dish him the ball. He's going to do a backdoor cut, or he's going to go and do an alley oop. They just knew each other's moves so well. They knew what the other guy was going to do. It takes time to develop all that, and we're just on the cusp of that right now. We're seeing that start. It has to start somewhere, and it's starting this season. So there is things to still be excited about, even though this team currently right now is not winning, but they are very competitive. Eventually, they're going to start getting wins. And, it's just a tough schedule right now. Whoever designed these or whoever scheduled, these, I guess, the beginning of the season schedule for the San Antonio Spurs had to not have been a Spurs fan. This is evil. They give them a horrible schedule to start the season.
But despite the challenge, they've looked really solid for, again, they're exceeding expectations that have been set by them and set for them. And again, it's going to, like you said, it's going to come. It's going to come at some point in terms of they're going to get their shit together when it comes to crunch time, and they're going to learn from their inexperience. They're going to learn from that, and they're going to outgrow it. And eventually they will be closing out these games. But the biggest thing, though, is they are setting themselves up to be close when it comes to crunch time. And that's a very important thing. And
Yeah.
so that's going to be a thing that they're going to really carry on. And Papa has not said one bad thing about his team yet, because he's been extremely happy and proud of what they've done. And I am too, as a Spurs fan, and as just being a very analytical person. They're doing some really good stuff. Like, besides being 1-3, they're I know it doesn't sound that great, a middle of the pack team. This was a team that people were thinking was going to be bottom 5 of the league, but they're currently in the middle of the pack, and that's a solid place to be, especially at 1-3 and being such a young team.
Yeah, currently right now, as it stands in the Western Conference, I believe they are 13th. At
But it's also four or 5 games in, so
4 or 5 games in, it's
like
not.
you can't look at the standings. Like, you can't look at
Yeah.
the standings and be like, oh, they're 13th. Like,
Yeah, I'm just.
it's we're 4 games in. Let's calm down.
It's
everyone.
4 games in. Currently, right now, they're 13th. And the Lakers, they've won. They're 2-2, right? They won 2, lost 2. Right now they're at 500. They're just at 500. We're only 4 games into the season. There's still a lot of basketball left to play. I'm sure the standings are going to change even more. We haven't even gotten to the quarter mark of the season yet. Let's see what this team looks like come the end of
We
December.
haven't gotten to the 10th of the season yet.
Yeah, we haven't. You see, like, I want to see what they look like near the end of December. I bet you they're going to look a lot better, as the
Yeah.
season starts to wear on, especially during the All-Star break. Let's go ahead and gauge this team and grade them at the halfway mark of the season, which is generally the All-Star break.
Because the way that this team is looking is that they're going to be competitive no matter what game it is, no matter who their opponent is. And it looks like they can outmatch and beat lesser teams. Like we saw against the Magic team, like where they just manhandled them the whole time. And if they're going to be competitive against contenders and still dominate against lesser teams, that's going to be that will at least be at minimum a play-in type team. That because they are going to be winning the games that they should win in terms of having lesser teams, and they're still staying competitive. And eventually, they're going to win one of these close games against a really good team.
I was hoping that was going to be against the Lakers. That would have been a statement game.
That would have been great.
But either way,
and it was close. It was close. Again, to send them to OT. Yeah, and I predicted this. Yeah, it was a LeBron-less team. Either way, if Spurs won, people are going to say, "Oh, it was against a LeBron-less team." And if they lost, like they did, people are going to like, "How can you not be a LeBron-less team?" Like, what the fuck do you want? Which way do you want this? But still, to be as close as they were against Milwaukee and Denver, and just stay close in those games, that's a big thing. And then to send a team that you're probably better in terms of effort and everything to OT, in just like terms of like you're a very young team, you should be able to out hustle this Laker team. They are not involved.
And a lot of things that we were talking about before the game even started. And I was just talking with Laker fans, and I was also talking with San Antonio Spurs fans, and everybody kind of agreed. And they were asking, well, "What's your thoughts, on the game? What do you think's going to happen?" I said, if LeBron doesn't play, and this is before we finally got the word,
Yeah.
or I knew that LeBron wasn't going to play, I said, if LeBron plays, the game could get away from the Spurs. It could be, the Lakers winning by 10 points, 12 points, if he plays. If he doesn't play, I said this game is going to be very close. Possibly we might even go into overtime. And lo and behold, they're like, "You called it." All the people that were sitting around me in the fan zone, they were looking at me. They're like, "We're going into overtime." I said, "I don't know." I said, "I just told you it's going to be very close." And lo and behold, went into overtime. Either way, it didn't go our way, but I was very happy and proud of the team and the way they played. Even Lakers fans after the game were coming up to me and said, "Hey, good luck to your team. They played really hard." They go, "We thought that, the Lakers were going to blow this team out of the water, but credit to the Spurs. They played a very uh competitive game." So that
No,
they impressed
no
some of the
wonder
Lakers
fair weather
fans.
fans not
Yeah.
his damn fair weather fans.
Yeah, the fair weather fans, they were in full effect. So I can't even tell you, Ty. That was just so annoying. The Laker fan base, and I'm gonna be honest, I've dealt with other fan bases in the NBA. One thing in particular about the Laker fan base, they are the worst fan base in the NBA. They're horrible,
They're
man.
one of the worst fan bases in all of
Horrible.
sports.
Horrid. Even the Mavericks fans, I mean, come on, there's a heated rivalry there.
But there's respect
They're
between the two.
respectful. I'd have to say Lakers fans are probably the worst, followed closely by Houston Rockets fans.
Yeah, in terms of NBA stuff
Yeah.
that matches, I say that any like LA team fandom between like the Lakers and the Dodgers, it's just they're not good people. They're not good fans. Now then you got like the Angel fans and then like the Clipper fans who are like the good Los Angeles type fans. Like, yeah, I can respect you.
Yeah, they're all right. But yeah, the Laker fans, forget it, man. The diehards, not the fair weather ones that don't even know what the team
Even
looked
the
like
fair
3
weather
years
ones
ago.
are assholes.
Oh yeah, they're bad. I saw a lot of people out there, not a lot, but I saw a handful of them wearing the Toon Squad jerseys, from Space Jam or whatnot.
But that's a Poppy or Out costume.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not gonna blame him on that one.
Yeah, but I'm just like, I guess they're just fair weather fans. I mean, everybody else was wearing Kobe jerseys, so okay, I like the Kobe jersey, but
I think we were looking at the crowd, like just because we had like a wide shot we could see during like timeouts, like the arena, and I think I paused it and Nick pointed out like LeBron. There's a Kobe one. LeBron. More Kobe. It's like it was only Kobe or LeBron. No
Kobe
one
or
else.
LeBron. Yeah.
Maybe one Anthony Davis jersey in the low pixelation.
Yeah. And then we saw LeBron coaching out there and everybody was laughing, even though he was in street clothes. And then a funny thing too that occurred.
Right, bum ankle, he was sure standing a lot.
He was standing, he was coaching, and the funny thing to me was the Lakers head coach, what's his name? Frank Vogel. He was out there and he was trying to talk with AD and he's trying to coach AD and AD was doing this to him, Ty, the whole time. He was shaking his head, no, no, no. And Vogel was adamant trying to talk to AD and he just looked at him straight in the eye. No, no, no. I was like, I think he wanted to be coached by LeBron. Let me get my real coach in here. Where's LeBron at?
LeBron's gonna be a head coach. You know it. He's gonna be a team owner and head. He's gonna be that one guy that has an owner and a coach and the general manager all at the same time. He's gonna pull a Jerry Jones.
He's gonna be a Jackie Moon.
He's gonna be Jackie Moon.
I'm the promoter. I'm the owner. I'm the coach. I'm everything.
Do halftime shows. Be the announcer.
Yeah, fight the bear. Hey, that's a show that I want to see at halftime. Oh, and you know what? There was a girl at halftime. She was doing amazing stuff. They had like, I guess it was like some type of
the tightrope. We saw that
tightrope. Oh God, she fell, man.
Oh, she did. I didn't see
fell.
That.
I'm like, what are they doing? Like, they had her on this little pole, right? And they're throwing her in the air. And she's
a gymnast.
Yeah, and she lands on the little pole, right? So she's like, "Oh, okay," standing on there, and we're like, "Wow, this girl's great." They threw her so high. Then all of a sudden, they get into the end, they throw her, and then the guys move with the pole. I'm like, "What the fuck are you all doing?" And then the girl hits the pole. I mean, can you imagine? You get thrown in the air, and then you're okay. I'm gonna land here,
That's
but
all
no.
part of the show, man. Though,
but then they move
exactly
her.
What they're doing.
They move the pole, and then she's trying to land on the pole, and they're moving it a little bit further to the left. She barely lands on it, and then you hear a plop where she hits the ground, and then everybody collectively was like, "Oh!" And then she
No, I
gets
didn't see
up.
that. I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
and then she gets up and we're like, yeah, and everybody's clapping, and trying to get her pumped up.
It's all part of the show. It's all they know what they're doing. They know
Ty,
what they're scripted.
that
It's
had
all
to
it.
hurt. That had to hurt. You could hear the thud, man. I felt bad for that girl, but she just popped right back up. I'm like, oh my God, we all thought like she got hurt, like for real, man. You just could hear everybody's like, oh. But it was fun times. Either way, I had a great time at the game. I look forward to going again. I had a great.
My favorite halftime show of all time is the guy with the Chihuahuas. That's my all time
Oh
favorite halftime
yes,
show.
the doggos, man. I like that. You gotta
That's my
love
all
it.
time favorite.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring the show to an end here, Ty. And before we do, go ahead and let the people know where they can go ahead and follow you on social media.
Sorry, I just saw Scotty Barnes like poster.
You
Man,
gotta have it.
if just to talk about another team real quick and a good Scotty Barnes, what a good pick at number 4. But you can follow me on Twitter at the Ty Jager. That's at the Ty Jager. You can also find just all my stuff at Pounding the Rock. I'm not writing anything yet, but I'm doing a lot of their social media. So if you want to check them out, check out Pounding the Rock on Twitter as well as or at their website. But besides that, make sure to check out At the Line. We're gonna be consistent this season. I swear to God, we will be consistent this season. After a few more games, we're gonna record and have a lot more to talk about. But check us out at the Line Pod on Twitter. But again, you can follow me on Twitter at the Ty Jager.
Yeah, make sure you go and check out At the Line. Great group of guys, great podcast. I enjoy listening and watching when they go and do their live streams because it's always a good time. They're a lot of fun too, especially if they start drinking and they have the watch along. You got to watch.
Yeah, I will say we are a fun bunch to watch a game with.
This is true.
You know me. Whenever I start drinking,
oh God.
Whenever I start drinking and I'm watching sports, I'm having a good time.
Can we still get the guns? Bam, bam, bam.
I love it. I was doing it the whole time too, and I will say, what was it? What was it? Damn, there was some play that I started doing 2 guns.
2 guns from the hip. Bam, bam, bam.
You know what? If Jakob Poeltl makes both of his free throws, you gotta do the 2 guns.
The 2 guns. And we got the guns. If you want to see, just go and look at Mac's social media or my social media, the 2 Shots Podcast on Twitter. And we posted a GIF out there. And we're gonna keep using it throughout the season of Ty.
If you want to do your very own 3 guns, it's simple as this. You gotta do the what is it? The German 3, if you haven't seen Glorious Bastards. The German 3, and just do it from the hip as if you're doing you're just pulling some guns out holsters and like
there you
that.
go.
Easy as that.
You even got instructions on how to do it. So you can make your own gifts. Ty just teaching us everything today.
Gotta help out. Gotta make this a tradition.
There you go. So make sure you go and follow me as well on 2 Shots Podcast over social media and it's all spelled out, TWO 2 Shots Podcast. And make sure you also check out all the stuff that our good friends over at Project Spurs got coming out. Great group of writers out there. Got a lot of good stuff coming through the pipe here about your San Antonio Spurs. For Ty Jager, I'm tired already. I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for watching another episode of the 2 Shots Podcast. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind. We're out.